Discover the miraculous truths of divine revelation, the incredible end times in Matthew 24. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, the temple of God stood proudly in Jerusalem, a symbol of the divine presence among his people. The skies were clear, as the sun began its descent, casting a golden hue over the ancient walls, each gleaming stone reflecting the shimmering light of the day. Atop the Mount of Olives, Jesus and his disciples gathered, the weight of the moment pressing heavily upon them. Filled with curiosity and concern, the disciples approached their teacher, their faces etched with urgency. "Teacher," one disciple ventured, "what will be the sign of your coming and the close of the age?" His words hung in the air, trembling with expectancy as Jesus looked out over the city, his eyes filled with compassion. "Take heed that no one leads you astray," he warned, "for many will come in my name, proclaiming, 'I am the Christ,' and they will lead many astray." The disciples' hearts quickened with fear at the thought of false prophets. The anticipation of the end times weighed heavily on their minds, as they grappled with the implications of Jesus' forewarning. "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars," Jesus continued, a solemn tone enveloping the group. "See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet." The disciples, peering toward the majestic temple, could almost feel the tremors of turmoil ripple through their souls. The stone walls, which had symbolized their faith, now felt like a sanctuary trembling on the brink of chaos. Then, Jesus prophesied of the coming tribulation, "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death. And you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake." The weight of his revelation crashed down upon them like a storm. Some faces paled at the thought of persecution, while others steeled themselves, reflecting a fierce determination. They understood the cost of following him could lead to suffering, a path paved with trials. Jesus went on, speaking of an abomination of desolation, his voice echoing the sacred writings of Daniel. "When you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place," he cautioned, "let the reader understand." The disciples leaned in, their minds racing, trying to piece together how such events could unravel a tapestry of fear and uncertainty woven through their spirits. "And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved." He planted seeds of hope and endurance deep within their hearts, assurance that faith amidst tribulations would lead to salvation. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Then, Jesus painted a breathtaking image of his return. "Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." The promise of gathering his faithful ones breathed life into their spirits, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty that surrounded them. As the sun dipped lower, scattering hues of orange and purple across the sky, a shadow of doubt lingered. The profound questions remained suspended in the air, a mystery woven into the fabric of God's divine plan. One disciple hesitated, raising his hand with trembling heart, "Lord, how will we know and endure? What is the way through these trials?" Silence enveloped them, each heartbeat echoing. The sacred journey ahead, an adventurous call to faith in the face of tribulation. The answers, they sensed, were yet to unfold in God's perfect timing. As twilight fell upon the Mount of Olives, a stillness enveloped the gathering of disciples. They exchanged glances that echoed their shared anxiety, hearts heavy with unspoken questions. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and though the sky became a canvas of night, the shadows of their worries clung to them like a cloak. Jesus, seeing their troubled faces, sought to comfort them. "You are not alone in your fears," he spoke gently, his voice imbued with serenity. "For as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." They were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. The disciples listened intently, picturing the world outside as a place oblivious to the impending judgment, their own hearts quickening at the parallel they understood. "Watch therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming," he urged, illuminating the necessity of vigilance within them. "But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into." The weight of Jesus' words hit deeply, and whispers of determination began to stir within the group. Each disciple grappled with the realization that their faith would require an enduring watchfulness, a steadfast commitment to what lay ahead. "Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." Yet, one disciple voiced an uncertainty, "Rabbi, tell us, who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom his master has set over his household, to give them their food at the proper time?" His query hung in the air. Filled with earnest desire for understanding, Jesus responded in parables, painting a vivid picture of faithful service. "Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly, I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions." The disciples could envision themselves as those servants, their hearts igniting with a sense of purpose. But if that wicked servant says to himself, "My master is delayed," and begins to beat his fellow servants and eats and drinks with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him and at an hour he does not know. The gravity of his warning sent shivers through the gathered men, their resolve strengthening against complacency. As darkness enveloped the land, Jesus continued, weaving together his teachings. "There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth for those who fall away. But to those who remain steadfast, the joy of their master will be their reward." Each heart hungered for that joy, and a fervent hope kindled as they envisioned their reunion with him. The words of Jesus echoed in the silence, as the stars shimmered above like promises yet fulfilled. Time seemed to stand still, charged with a divine expectancy. Something monumental loomed just beyond their understanding. As Jesus concluded his teachings, he cast a glance over the city of Jerusalem, his heart heavy with love for a people called yet blind. With an air of solemnity, he uttered, "But what you do not know is that not all will heed the call. For many are invited, but few will be chosen." With this, the weight of divine mystery hung in the night air, leaving the disciples yearning for more insight into God's sovereign purpose. What was his ultimate plan? How would these truths shape their lives as they moved forward into the unknown? The answers remained a sacred enigma, a whisper of grace amidst an unfolding journey that was yet to reveal its fullness. As the night deepened, the radiant glow of the moon cast shadows upon the rocky ground of the Mount of Olives. Jesus, sensing the heaviness in the hearts of his disciples, chose this moment to impart further wisdom, drawing nearer to their restless spirits. "Children," he began, "if the master of the house had let his guard down, the thief would have come and stolen what was precious. But I tell you, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Remain in me, and I will remain in you." The disciples leaned in closer, captivated by his steadfast assurance. "In the coming days, you shall witness great signs," Jesus continued, his voice steady like the ancient oak surrounding them. "For many will come in my name, declaring, 'I am the Christ.' And they will lead many astray. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for these things must take place, but the end is not yet." A shiver ran through the group at these words, marveling yet apprehensive about the turmoil that lay ahead. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. "But these are but the beginning of the birth pains," he said, drawing their minds to a time of travail that would precede a greater revelation. "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another." The seriousness of his expression weighed heavily upon the disciples, a daunting glimpse into the future unfolding before them. "I warn you, uphold your faith in the Son of Man, for the love of many will grow cold. Yet the one who endures to the end will be saved." His eyes shone with fervor, kindling hope upon the burning embers within them. And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Peter's heart stirred as he sought understanding. Lord, how shall we remain faithful amidst such trials? What shall be our strength in those days? Jesus gazed at Peter, his expression firm yet compassionate. The Spirit of God will empower you, for a time will come when it will not be you who speaks, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. He paused, sensing the weight of his revelations. So when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. For then will come great tribulation such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, and no, never will be. As he shared these unsettling truths, a hush fell over the gathering. The disciples, torn between anguish and awe, felt the very fabric of their reality shift. Yet, do not lose heart, Jesus reassured them, his voice rising above the fear. For the Son of Man will return with power and great glory, and he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds. With these words, an undeniable promise resonated in their souls, igniting a flicker of hope for the days ahead. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. A sacred silence engulfed the group, the vastness of his declaration sinking into the depths of their hearts. For in every shadow of fear, a glimmer of divine purpose was set against the horizon. As the first light of dawn began to twinkle in the skies, Jesus concluded, "But concerning that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming." With anticipation hanging in the air, a riddle of hope lingered, whispering of divine purpose yet to be revealed. What remarkable workings and heavenly wonders would unfold when the mysteries of the ages converged upon the earth? The disciples peered into the unknown, hearts pounding with expectation. As the dawn broke over the horizon, its soft light illuminated the faces of the disciples, filled with a mingling of fear and resolve. They gathered closely around Jesus, the weight of his words still resonating in their hearts. The cool morning air seemed to hold their breath, awaiting the continuation of the profound counsel they so desperately needed. "Listen carefully, dear ones," Jesus said, his voice steady yet imbued with urgency. "As you journey through the trials ahead, remember the parable of the 10 virgins. 5 were wise, and 5 were foolish. The wise took oil in their flasks, while the foolish took no oil with them." He paused, allowing the gravity of his message to settle. "For when the cry went out at midnight, 'Here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him,' the foolish found themselves unprepared." The disciples exchanged anxious glances, realizing the deeper significance of what he said. "You must be ever ready," he continued. "For in an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come." This prompting stirred within the hearts of his followers, awakening a sense of urgency to be vigilant in prayer and steadfast in faith. Moreover, Jesus added, "It will be like a man going on a journey, who summoned his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his ability. When the master returned, he sought an account from them. His gaze swept over them, filled with wisdom. What did they accomplish with what was entrusted to them? As Jesus relayed the story of the servants, an atmosphere of responsibility cloaked them. The accountability for their actions, particularly in the light of the gospel, felt profoundly intense. The servant who had received 5 talents increased them to 10, the one who had received 2, doubled them to 4. Yet the one who buried his talent in the ground received the condemnation of the master, for he failed to invest in the kingdom. "Lord," asked James, ever seeking clarification, "what does it mean to us that we must now carry such a weight of responsibility?" Jesus turned his gaze fiercely, filled with passion. "You have been entrusted with the good news, the very message of salvation. Each moment, every interaction, they are opportunities to witness for me, to multiply your talents in a world that is fading. Do not be like the servant who had fear as his master, rather, let faith reign and flourish in your souls. The disciples pondered over the magnitude of their calling, understanding that their faith would be tested. At that time, Jesus continued, foretelling the future, the King will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For when he was hungry, they gave him food, when thirsty, a drink, when a stranger, they welcomed him." The righteousness of their actions would testify on their behalf. Suddenly, a spark ignited within Peter, a yearning to act upon the weight of such revelations. "But Master, how can we know that we will endure to the end?" he implored, voice laced with urgency. "The promise of the Advocate remains," Jesus assured him, the warmth of his presence dispelling doubt. "For you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." The light of dawn unfolded further, illuminating the path forward filled with trials and victories, divine tension weaving through the fabric of time. The disciples clung to these promises, stirring within them a resolve to fulfill their callings amidst forthcoming hardships. With an air of finality, Jesus concluded, "But remember, blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly, I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions." He then looked at them, eyes blazing with a divine fire, and imparted the lingering truth, "For I tell you, the mysteries of the kingdom will be revealed to the faithful, yet even amid their suffering, my plan unfolds, unveiling greater testing and redemption than you can imagine." The anticipation grew thicker, as with each revelation, they gleaned more than mere words, they grasped the very essence of God's sovereign plan, alive and moving within their midst. What mighty acts of deliverance awaited! The dawn revealed not just a new day but the promise of a divine unfolding that was yet to be fully understood. As the sun ascended higher, casting its golden rays upon the land, Jesus looked at his disciples, sensing their unease. The day ahead would be fraught with challenges, and he sought to anchor them in hope and truth. "Know this," he began with solemnity, "the whispers of the end times are unfolding. Many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Messiah,' and they will deceive many." The disciples listened intently, hearts quickening as the weight of those words bore down upon them. "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for these things must take place, but the end is not yet. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." His voice rose, compelling their attention. "These are but the beginning of birth pains, then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake." Each statement carved deeper into their souls, igniting a passion laced with fear. The roads they would walk were darkened by uncertainty. "Many will fall away," Jesus continued, "and betray one another and hate one another. False prophets will arise and lead many astray, and because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold." Fear gripped their hearts, yet within this somber warning, they sensed a flicker of hope. "But the one who endures to the end will be saved," Jesus declared, his voice a beacon amidst the gathering storm. "And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." "Master," Thomas interjected, his brow furrowed in confusion, "when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus paused, reflecting on the earnestness of his friend's inquiry. In this moment, he unveiled the truth layered beneath their question. "When you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, as spoken by the prophet Daniel, let the one who reads understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." He continued with richness, "For then will be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. But if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved." A silence fell over the gathering, hearts thumping with gravity and grace. "But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short." His countenance remained firm, reassuring, as the promise of deliverance echoed within their thoughts. "How will we know?" Peter asked, desperation creeping into his tone. Look to the fig tree, Jesus replied, gesturing toward the budding branches. As soon as they come out in leaf, you see for yourselves and know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. The air around them vibrated with urgency, and the disciples clung to the teacher's words. They felt the heavy responsibility laid upon their shoulders, the mandate to herald the hope of Christ amidst despair. But concerning that day and hour no one knows, Jesus continued, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. He spoke of the flood that swept over the earth, a historical reminder of impending judgment cloaked in grace. For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. He concluded with a flourish of divine mystery, therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. The air forked with spiritual tension, realization dawning, yet questions lingered. What would come next? What role would they occupy in the living out of this divine narrative? As they absorbed his words, wrapped in both anticipation and fear, they understood that God's sovereign plan was continuing to unfold, yet full of mystery, waiting for his faithful to witness the revelation of his glory yet to come. As the murmurs of concern lingered in the hearts of the disciples, Jesus turned again toward them, the weight of his message pressing heavily upon him. Who, then, is the faithful and wise servant, whom his master has set over his household, to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. With every word spoken, a deeper urgency infiltrated the air. Each disciple felt the stirrings of a restless spirit within, grappling with their appointed roles in the unfolding drama. Truly, I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions, Jesus assured them, painting a golden image of faithfulness rewarded, yet, he paused, allowing the weight of truth to settle. But if that wicked servant says to himself, my master is delayed, and begins to beat his fellow servants and eats and drinks with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him and at an hour he does not know. The gravity of these words hung like a cloud, a warning embedded within a blessing. With a fervent gaze, Jesus declared, he will cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The stark contrast of faithfulness and unfaithfulness drew a line in the sand. The disciples recoiled slightly, grappling with the potential consequences of choices yet to be made. Then Jesus spoke of his coming, of the Son of Man descending in glory, enveloped by the clouds, and accompanied by the sound of a great trumpet. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. The vision both terrified and thrilled the hearts of the witnesses. The promise of divine gathering sparked hope against the backdrop of tribulation. In those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Faces turned pale, caught in the fierceness of prophecy that reverberated in echoes through the ages. The apocalypse painted in vivid strokes was both compelling and fearsome, reminiscent of the prophets who spoke of such calamity. A sign will appear in heaven, he continued, breaking through the weight of uncertainty. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with power and great glory. The imagery enveloped them, igniting a realization of both his kingship and their profound anticipation. As he prepared to reveal more profound truths, a hush enveloped the grounds. The heavens and the earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. These were not mere declarations, they were enduring promises cradled in authority. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree, he reiterated, the illustration fresh in their mind. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. The air was thick with expectancy, each disciple realizing they stood on the precipice of a new era. Jesus' gaze met theirs, imbued with a serenity that belied the urgency of his words. But about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. The divine mystery remains sealed, inviting contemplation and resolve. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. His tone was both comforting and stringent, tethering them to their divine purpose, yet, amidst the sobering truths, a quiet revelation beckoned at the edges of their hearts. Little did they know, the unfolding of God's sovereign plan was drawing them closer to a destiny far beyond their comprehension, but their roles in this narrative were already being shaped for the glory that was yet to come. What they could not fathom was the beautiful tapestry that their faithfulness would weave, revealing not just trials but an astonishing revelation of God's divine triumph. Then Jesus continued, his voice filled with authority, "It is like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away." The disciples listened as the parable unfolded, the lesson echoing in their spirits. Immediately the one who had received the 5 talents went, at once, and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also, he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Jesus paused, the stillness heavy with anticipation. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, "Master, you delivered to me 5 talents, here, I have made 5 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." Each word the master spoke filled the air with a mixture of reward and longing. The disciples envisioned the weight of obedience and toil, the fruit born from faithfulness blooming before their eyes. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, "Master, you delivered to me 2 talents, here, I have made 2 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." Yet the atmosphere shifted as Jesus turned solemn. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours." The rebuke was clear, reverberating in the hearts of the disciples. But his master answered him, "You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest." Jesus' words bore weight, stinging against the flesh of complacency. "So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." A silence fell as the implications of this parable sunk deep within their spirits. The disciples were stirred, grappling with their destinies and the call to stewardship. Jesus then said, "And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." With urgency in his voice, he concluded, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats." The vision of his return solidified their fears and hopes alike. "And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left." As the disciples processed these profound truths, they could not grasp the full impact of the unfolding narrative. Each parable and each lesson unveiled a glimpse into the divine framework of God's kingdom, a kingdom that required active waiting, faithful investment, and courageous service. But the question lingered in their hearts, what more must we prepare for his wondrous return? Little did they know, the culmination of all their labors and trials was drawing near, the divine clock ticking towards a revelation that would entwine their lives with a purpose they had yet to fully comprehend. The dawning of destiny awaited, veiled in mystery, echoing the truth that God's sovereign plan would reveal itself in ways they could scarcely imagine. As Jesus spoke, the air bore a weight of sacred urgency, a divine call echoing into the hearts of his disciples. Then, he said, in a voice that stirred deep within them, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. The disciples leaned in further, captivated by this new parable illuminating their understanding. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. In their minds, they began to visualize this gathering, the anticipation of the coming feast. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. A weighty silence enveloped them, as if the Master was revealing more than just a story. But at midnight, he continued, there was a cry, "Here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him." Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. The sharpness of that moment resonated within their spirits. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." Jesus' eyes glimmered with truth, his words flowing like a river of wisdom. But the wise answered, "Since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves." And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. A hushed awe fell upon the disciples, realization dawning the significance of being prepared for the unknown. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered, "Truly, I say to you, I do not know you." Jesus fixed his gaze upon them, each word carrying the weight of warning and hope entwined. "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." The disciples wrestled with those mysteries, their hearts stirred with a passionate urgency that surged within. "For it will be like a man going on a journey," Jesus resumed, weaving his narrative with threads of profound connection. "He called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability, and he went away." Each servant represented them, the burden of responsibility resting heavily upon their shoulders. Jesus revealed the dynamics of faithfulness that would echo throughout eternity. "To everyone who has will more be given," he repeated, the divine cadence resonating in their ears, "but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." A moment of reflection enveloped them, the solemnity of these parables weighing heavily. It is as if the heavens themselves were speaking, Peter thought, beckoning us to readiness and resolve. Then, as if anticipating their hearts, Jesus promised, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne." The foretelling of that magnificent day drew nearer in their understanding, the urgency palpable. Each of us has a role in this divine narrative, James pondered aloud, his eyes filled with a dawning hope. But what is our part in this great unfolding? As the sun began to set upon the horizon, casting shadows that whispered secrets of the future, Jesus added, "And the King will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.'" A holy stillness enveloped the space as Jesus' declaration hung in the air. The disciples trembled on the precipice of divine revelation, their hearts yearning for understanding, encountering in every parable the challenge of their faithfulness, their service, and the eternal significance of their choices. But the greatest truth of all remained unspoken, a divine mystery woven into the fabric of time. Little did they know, the day of reckoning was closer than they could ever perceive, a moment when God's sovereign plan would unfurl like the dawn of creation itself. En quanto os discípulos ponderavam sobre as palavras do mestre, a atmosfera se tornava ainda mais carregada de expectativa e temor. Enteo, será como homem que parte de sua terra, Jesus continua, e chamou seus servos, e lhes entregou seus bens. A dos 5 talentos, a outro 2, a outro a cada segundo a sua capacidade, e partiu. A reverberação dos talentos ainda ecoava seus caracos, como lembrete de responsabilidade que cada carregava. Os rostos dos discípulos refletiam a intensidade de mensagem. O que havia recebido 5 talentos saiu, e negocio com eles e ganhou outros 5. Da mesma forma, o que havia recebido 2 fez o mesmo e ganhou outros 2, explica Jesus, a luz da su olhar brilhando com alegria e o falar sobre a fidelidade dos servos. Mas o que havia recebido foi e cavou na terra, e escondo o dinheiro do su Senhor. As palavras do Senhor criaram silencio passado nas almas dos seus seguidores, como uma sombra sobre a luz da esperança. Depois de muito tempo, veio o Senhor daqueles servos, e ajusta contas com eles. A expectativa desse momento ressoava como uma batida de tambor na tarde silenciosa. Chegando o que recebera 5 talentos, trou outros 5 dizendo, Senhor, 5 talentos me entregaste, eis aqui outros 5 talentos que ganhei. E o su Senhor lhe diz, muito bem, servo bom e fiel, sobre o pouco foste fiel, sobre o muito te colocarei, entra na alegria do tu Senhor. A alegria desses servos não era apenas uma recompensa temporal, era preâmbulo ao gozo eterno e a comunhão com o Senhor. Murmurio da esperança passou entre os discípulos. Aquele que recebera os 2 talentos se aproximou e, da mesma forma, declara su lucro. E Jesus, olhando para eles, fez uma pausa. Numa alegria semelhante, o Senhor disse ao segundo, muito bem, servo bom e fiel. No entanto, o que havia recebido talento se aproximou, o semblante grave. Senhor, eu sabia que és homem severo, colhes onde neo semeaste e ajuntas onde neo espelhaste. E, com medo, fui e escondi o tu talento na terra. Aqui tens o que é tu. Jesus olhou para ele, uma expresso de compaixão misturada com tristeza toma forma. Mas o Senhor lhe respondeu, servo maligno e preguiçoso. Sabias que eu colho onde neo semeai e ajunto onde neo espalhai? Devias, portanto, ter entrego meu dinheiro aos banqueiros, e, ao voltar, teria recebido o que é meu com juros. O peso de reproveco caiu sobre os discípulos, aviso severo sobre os perigos de complacência e de falta de fé. Este servo foi tirado o que ele tinha, e entregue o que tinha muito, Jesus concluiu, a verdade penetrante suas palavras. Porque tudo o que tem recebera mais, e o que neo tem, o que pensa ter, será tirado. Assim, a carga do ensinamento pareva nas almas dos discípulos, eco de realidade eterna que se aproximava. A hora de colheita neo tardara, pensou João, su coração pulsando rapidamente. Estamos chamados a produzir frutos dignos diante de Deus. Jesus, percebendo suas preocupações, olhou torno e disse, quando, pois, o Filho do Homem vir sua glória, e todos os santos anjos com ele, então-se assentara no trono de sua glória. Sua voz era forte, ressoando com autoridade e compaixão. E todas as nações serão reunidas diante dele, e separara uns dos outros, como o pastor separa os bodes das ovelhas, e ele fez uma pausa, e o silencio caiu como manto passado. E colocara as ovelhas a sua direita, e os bodes a sua esquerda. O peso de sentença que se aproximava fez com que os caracos tremessem. Então, o rei dira aos que estão a sua direita, vinda, benditos de meu Pai, herde o reino preparado para vos desde a fundação do mundo. A verdade do que viria, como luminar no horizonte, desperto profundo tema reverent. O futuro estava entrelacado nas promessas de Deus, mas também nas escalas que cada faria. A expectativa pareva no ar, chamado a o compromisso e a fé ativa. E enquanto a escuridão do crepúsculo envolvia o cenário, a verdade subjacente pulsava. E neo sabiam que a hora de seus próprios caracos estava se aproximando, revelando o plano divino que se desdobraria a esplendor e juízo, evento profético que marcaria a eternidade. As the sun's first rays pierced the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the weary disciples, Jesus stood before them, the fulfillment of every promise echoing in his presence. They gathered, their hearts still trembling from the weight of his words, the urgency of the lessons fresh in their spirits. The air shimmered with a divine anticipation, for the time of reckoning was at hand. Beloved ones, the weight of all I have spoken brings forth a new dawn, Jesus began, his voice gentle yet commanding, infused with the authority of heaven itself. The kingdom of God has drawn near, and it is through you that its mysteries shall unfold. With every eye fixed upon him, the disciples felt their hearts quicken, for they understood that their moment, this divinely appointed hour, beckoned not just to their futures, but to the legacy of faith that would ripple through generations. As I embark on this journey to fulfill all righteousness, so too shall you walk in the light of the gospel, lighting the path for those lost in darkness. Behold, he declared, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. Yet, in 3 days, he shall rise victorious, demonstrating the eternal triumph over sin and death. Remember this, for there lies your hope as you face tumult and trials. His proclamation resounded with clarity, a testament of faith that reignited their spirits. The disciples, emboldened by his promise of resurrection, understood their purpose to proclaim the good news to all nations. You are now the vessels of my Spirit, Jesus affirmed, his gaze piercing through their doubts. The Advocate will empower you, granting boldness in the face of persecution and trials that lie ahead, for as you abide in me, I will abide in you. As he spoke, a heaviness lifted from their hearts, transforming apprehension into resolve. They felt the weight of history upon them, the tremendous task placed in their hands. Your mission shall begin at Jerusalem, and from there shall it spread unto the ends of the earth, Jesus continued, the fervor of his words illuminating their souls. And lo, I will be with you always, to the end of the age, he uttered with a promise enriched with the heart of a shepherd. The disciples pondered these truths, and the stirring within began to swell into an unwavering faith, igniting a fire that would blaze through the challenges they would soon encounter. The prophetic stones of their journey had been laid, the Son of Man was to be crucified, yet from the ashes of despair would rise the glorious hope of resurrection. Their spirits soared as they comprehended the depth of grace that would flow from his sacrifice, cleansing the sins of all who would believe, knitting them back into the heart of God. Embracing the weight of their commission, they knew the days ahead would test their faith like never before. Yet, amid persecutions and trials, they also perceived the mighty works and miracles that would accompany their witness. You will endure, Jesus whispered, and through your unwavering faith, the world will see the glory of the Father reflected in your lives. With fervent hearts and unyielding faith, the disciples pledged themselves anew to their calling, understanding that through trials they would bear witness to his love. For the one who endures to the end shall be saved, echoed in their spirits as they emerged from their moment of sacred resolve, eyes fixed upon the horizon where the dawn of a new era awaited. The time of fulfillment had come, and as they turned to face their tasks ahead, their unity forged in faith would break the darkness of a world desperately in need of the light. And this was the crescendo of a divine narrative, each disciple ready to proclaim the eternal truth of Christ, for the promise of his return would guide them always. Now, beloved friends, as you dwell on these sacred truths, I urge you to embrace this moment. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss out on the life-changing biblical stories that continue to transform hearts today. Leave a like now, helping us to spread God's word through the algorithm. reaching more souls yearning for his message of hope and salvation. Comment below your reflections. How have these passages impacted your faith? Share your journey with us, for we celebrate every testament to his goodness, and don't wait even one more second to share instantly this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth in their lives. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, for as believers, we understand the importance of uniting to further his kingdom. May your hearts be emboldened and your spirits ignited, as together we walk forth in faith, proclaiming his wondrous works to all the earth.